You know, back in the fall of 1880, out in Black Ridge, Montana, where the wind cuts through the pines like it's got a grudge, I stumbled into something that shook me right out of my own grave. Folks said that Hollow was full of nothing but echoes and bad memories. But one chilly morning, I found this massive black stallion tied to an old spruce, half-starved, scars all over like he'd fought the devil himself, and a crumpled note hanging from his bridle that read, "Too feral, can't tame him." Sorry, and damn if that didn't hit me square in the chest, because I knew what it felt like to be left for dead. See, I'd been holed up in my granddad's old shack on the ridge for nigh on 5 years by then name's Jack Thorne, though most folks in town just called me that quiet fella up the hill, after losing my Sarah and little Lily to that brutal fever winter, the kind that steals everything warm and leaves you hollowed out, staring at empty chairs by the fire. I wasn't living so much as waiting to fade away, trading furs down at the mercantile once a month, avoiding the saloon's laughter and the church's pity hell. Even the creek running by seemed to whisper judgments I didn't need. But that horse, with his eyes like smoldering coals, just standing there trembling but not breaking, it was like looking in a mirror I'd been avoiding. I pulled out my old Bowie knife, sawed through those rusty chains, each link popping like a sigh of relief, and led him back home, not knowing if he'd bolt or trample me, but figuring if he did, at least it'd be quick. We got to the cabin, and I named him Shadow right then, watching him drink from the trough like he'd forgotten what water tasted like, his flanks heaving, those welts from the chains still weeping, and I patched him up with rags and patience I didn't know I had left. Nights got quieter with him around, or maybe louder in a good way. I'd wake from those damn dreams of Sarah's laugh turning to coughs, heart pounding like thunder, and hear his steady breathing through the wall, pulling me back from the edge once, in the dead of night. I even rested my forehead against his neck, whispering, "You get it, don't you, boy? We're both ghosts trying not to vanish." But word spreads in a small town like Black Ridge, and soon Marshal Elias Kane rode up, dismounting with that weary grunt of his, eyeing Shadow like he was a loaded gun. "Jack," he said, voice gravelly from too many dusty trails. "That beast got a trail of broken men behind him, auctions, ranches, even a railroad crew tried to harness him, left one fella dead in the dirt. He's not a pet. He's a storm waiting to break loose." I just sipped my coffee, cold as the morning frost, and muttered, "Maybe, but he's walking free now, ain't he?" And Elias shook his head, mounting up with a warning that hung in the air like smoke. Things started shifting after that. Maggie Hale from the mercantile showed up with supplies, catching me brushing Shadow's coat till it gleamed like polished obsidian, and she teased with that warm smile of hers, "Look at you, Jack, grinning at a horse more than you ever did at us folks down in town." And yeah, it stung a bit, but she was right. The kids started sneaking up too, wide-eyed and giggling, feeding him soft carrots, their little hands on his massive shoulder while he stood patient as a saint. It was like Shadow was thawing something in me, reminding me trust wasn't always a fool's bet. But then came the real trouble. Harlan Voss, that slick horse trader with a pipe clenched in his teeth and eyes like a snake's, riding in one afternoon while I was carving a message into the spruce where I'd found Shadow. Shadow's home now. He swung down, kicked at the bark with a sneer, and drawled, "Well, if it ain't the recluse playing hero that stallion's mine. Thorne bought him square from a broke rancher up north, and no pity note changes that." I stepped in front of Shadow, hand on my knife hilt, feeling the old fire-stir. Harlan had a reputation for beating beasts into submission, selling him for profit or worse, all because he craved control like some men crave whiskey. He'd left Shadow to rot out of spite after the horse bucked him off once, bruising his ego more than his hide. "You abandoned him to die," I shot back, voice low and steady. "Claim's gone. Harlan, walk away before this turns ugly." He laughed that oily laugh, blowing smoke in my face. "Oh, it'll turn. All right. Legends like him draw crowds, and I'll be back to collect my gold," and rode off, leaving me with a knot in my gut, knowing his greed wasn't the type to fade quiet. But the real test came that night. The storm hit, sky cracking open like Judgment Day, rain pounding the roof, thunder shaking the bones of the cabin, and Shadow panicked in the corral, splintering boards with those massive hooves, eyes wild as the wind. He burst through the door, cornering himself by the hearth, trembling and snorting foam, and I could have run, But instead I knelt there in the chaos, palms out, whispering, "I ain't leaving you. Boy, not ever." Feeling his fear mirror my own buried storms. He calmed slow, resting that heavy head on my shoulder, and we rode out the night together come morning, sunlight streaming in like forgiveness, and me realizing we'd both stopped running from our scars. Harlan's threats lingered, but justice has a way of circling back. Turns out he'd been dodging warrants for rustling and cruelty, and when Elias hauled in witnesses folks he'd cheated, beasts he'd scarred, the coward skipped town, leaving his shack empty as his promises. I saddled Shadow that crisp morning. No fight, just trust, and we rode the ridge like we'd been born for it, twined in my hair, his stride strong and free, kids cheering from below, even Pastor Samuel Reed tipping his hat, murmuring, "Sometimes the wild ones save us, Jack." Looking back, it wasn't about taming Shadow or him fixing might, was us choosing not to break alone, finding home in the mess of it all. But here's the thing that still nags at me. Was Harlan just a bully chasing coin? Or did the town let him slide too long because fear makes folks blind? What do you think, was justice served? Or should we have chased him down? Drop a comment below. Share your take on forgiveness versus payback, or those community grudges that simmer too long. Hit subscribe if these real-life twists hit home, and let's chat about it.